Hey everybody, it's Bandor Tyrell, and I'm going to do another video for you on basic building techniques and tips and tricks and things like that. Today's focusing on Blender, and it's because I had a request from one of my customers who said, hey, have you ever done any videos that really talk about level of detail, LOD, and how to create a model that has multiple different LOD models within it, and how to bring that into Second Life and how to make it look good? And I realized I hadn't really done that because I don't really do that very much. Normally when I build a model, I just build one model and then I just import it and I set values for the LODs and have it automatically calculate it. And I realized that's not necessarily the best way to do it, and you may be able to get some better results and be able to control the number of prims, the LI that you get, because you have to have this balance between the LI and the detail. And so what is the LOD for in the first place? Well, the idea is that when you have an object up close, you want to see all the detail. So you want to have a very highly detailed model of the object for up close viewing. But as you cam away or you're further away from the object, the further you are away, the less detail of the model that you actually need to have. And so Second Life uses 4 levels of detail. By default, your viewer is only set to show 3 levels of detail. And so a lot of times things will look deformed because you're actually seeing it at the wrong level of detail. So we always recommend that you change your settings in your graphics to show 4 levels of detail. And then that fixes a lot of the problems that people have in seeing things. But it also depends on how the models are created and how they're imported into Second Life. So I normally, like I said, I don't normally do this when I create a model. I build the model as detailed as I want, and then when I import it into Second Life, I just use the automatic calculation based on the number of faces that you want, and I put numbers in, and then I'll import it. And a lot of times I'll do trial and error, and I will have it make it as low LI as possible, and then I'll look at it, and then, ooh, I see it deforms as you move away from the camera, moves away from the object, it starts deforming, and sometimes it deforms way too soon and way too early, and it looks pretty bad. So you have to play with those numbers to get it to look good. And then you can also do it this way by actually having a real model for each of the levels of detail that is different, has a different number of faces. And so that way you can really control the output. At least that's the theory. Now, as I said, I don't really normally do this, so we're going to learn how to do this together. And also, yesterday I had a request from somebody for a specific bed design. They sent me an image and said, hey, could you make a bed that looks kind of like this? And I did, and it's not exactly the same as what they sent me, but it's pretty close. And this is the model that I created yesterday. And I made the bed in Blender, and then I textured it in Second Life, and what you're seeing is the PBR materials here that I applied for that. So this is the bed, and so to deconstruct this bed, you can see the parts that are in it. Let me see what happens with the LOD as I move away. See if you can tell when it breaks. Should have already done it. So this one turned out pretty darn good. There he goes. You can see there's some deforming here, and the texture doesn't look right. And there it goes again. You saw it happen right then, and that's probably all you're going to notice. And then as I cam back in, this black right here makes it look unappealing, and I don't like that. And then that's gone on this part, and then it's going to change on that part. Now it looks okay. From this distance, it looks pretty good. And to me, for furniture, that's okay because you're rarely going to look at furniture from this distance. You mostly look at furniture from here or closer. And as long as it looks pretty good in there, I'm satisfied with it. And this bed turned out to only be 6 Li, even with that pillow. And if you look at that pillow, the pillow's got a lot of detail to it. Okay, so to me, this bed is a success. That's 6 Li for a bed that's fairly complex with a detailed pillow. Okay, so let's break this down and talk about what parts are in this. So a lot of people just make something as one object, and then they'll have one UV map for the whole thing, and it's kind of hard to, for me, it's very difficult to texture it and to manage that. So I like to split things up into logical parts. And so if you look at this, it has a shadow prim on the ground so we get the nice ground shadow. And a lot of people today say, oh, you don't need to do that anymore. Well, yeah, still, most things don't automatically get shadows. Like if you look here, the shadow that I have just naturally cast here, it doesn't look as appealing as the shadow that I can create. So I like to have floor shadows. I don't always do it, but I like to do it. And so for this one, we did do it. Oh, there is a floor shadow. Then I have the frame, which is the legs and the side rails. So there's a side rail on each side and the legs. And the reason why I didn't include the headboard and the footboard in that is because they're different. So the way that these legs and the side rails are made, they're just rectangles, and they're very similar. And so they're similar in size and shape, and so they would go well together as one UV map, one material. So I did that. I created one UV map, and I made one material for this called frame. And then I joined the headboard and the footboard together and did one UV map for the two of those. And I call it head and foot or something to that nature. And so that's a part by itself. So that's one part for the shadow, 2 parts for this, 3 parts for that. 4 part is the pillow. And then I have the 5th part is the box springs. Then I have the mattress. And the way I did this, instead of doing one big mattress all the way over and texturing it with parts textured and parts not textured, I took the easy way out, and I did 3 different cubes here. So this is a cube for the mattress, this is a cube for the bottom part of the blanket, and then this is a cube in the middle that's going to have both the sheet on it for the top sheet that gets folded back, and then the blanket part that gets folded back here. And then when I worked on that in Blender, can you see it? Oh, what am I doing? There's actually, it's hard to see in this. There's an edge here, and this is smaller than that. And then I tried to make sure that these UV maps all line up well so that the pattern on here will flow to the sides and to the side over here. And then I did the same thing with this so that they go the same direction, so that the grain of the cloth and the sides and everything, it fits well, so that it would look pretty seamless. See how the cloth pattern flows here. We did that in the UV map, and I'll show you how we did that and how to do it when we make the UV maps. So we're going to make a bed that's very similar to this. It may not be exactly the same, but it will be very similar to this. And we'll do multiple levels of detail for that as well. So that's the goal. All right, so let's jump back over into Blender. And okay, so if you look at the bed that I just showed you, I took the dimensions. Let's go back. And so I did the dimensions of a bed from the outside edge, and I do it based on where I need people to be because of the animations and everything. So this is the outside edge of the bed would be here. The end edge would be here. This is the outer dimensions of the bed, and I measured that when I made it, and that's what I used as my starting point. And that was a cube that is, well, let's start from the beginning. Let's clear everything out. All right, so we'll start out with a cube, and so we're going to hit Shift-A to add mesh cube, and then there's a little triangle over here. Where is it at? It's on the side here. That's where this transform came from. And then I'm going to go to Item, Dimensions, and we're going to go ahead and set the dimensions for this to be 2.1 meters. And these are just numbers that I wrote down from another bed that I like the way it works. 2.1, 3.1, 0.75. And that's 0.75 is from the ground to the top of the mattress. And that's important because a lot of the animations, somebody may be sitting on the side of the bed, or they may be standing next to it and have a foot on it or something. So you need to make sure that that dimension seems to work well. And then, so this is just a guideline for where we want the edges of these different parts that we're going to use to go. And then again, I'm not sure whether when I set those dimensions, was that the mattress size or was that the frame? But I think it was the outer frame. Okay, so the first part that I want to add is the shadow for underneath this, and because it's the easiest thing to do. And to do that, we're just going to do Shift A to add, and then Mesh will do Plane. And you can see the orange line around it there. It's kind of in the middle of everything. It's at the origin. So if I hit 7 on my keypad, that'll put me in the overhead view looking down, and I can see the size and shape of my my floor shadow, which is just a pan. It's just a plane. It's not a cube. It's a plane. So it's only X and Y coordinates. All right, so we're going to scale this to make it bigger to get it so that it would be wider. It needs to be wider and on all 4 sides. So it needs to be bigger than the object on all 4 sides. And I like to keep it so that it's about the same distance. That's just my personal preference. I don't do like a big square. I try to keep it so that it's the same distance from all 4 sides. Okay, so we're going to scale this up by hitting S, and then we're not going to pick any axes because we want to scale the whole thing, and just drag it out until it's about the width that I want it to be at, which is, and I'm just estimating this because experience, I know how far the shadows tend to go. So we'll do it about that big. Now I want to make it on the top and the bottom about the same distance away. So we'll hit scale again, and this time we're going to limit it to just the Y-axis by hitting Y. And now it's only going to scale on the Y-axis, and then we pull it out until we get it about the same distance away. And that looks about right. Okay. Now I'm going to I'm holding down the wheel so I can rotate my view. And see how this plane is not at the bottom? It's not on the ground. It's actually mid-air. So what I want to do is drop it down until it's at the bottom. So let's hit the side view by hitting 3 on our numpad. That puts us in side view. And then we can hit G for move, which I don't know why G is move. Grab, I guess. And then we're going to hit Z for the Z axis so that we only move it on the Z axis vertically. And then we'll just pull our mouse down until we get it underneath it. And then if I use my mouse wheel and scroll, I can zoom in and then, zoom in, and then I'm looking at the side of it. So I hold Shift down and then Shift drag the middle mouse button. So that's with Shift held down and then click drag the middle mouse button. Pans this around like that. And you can see there's a gap between them. So hit G, Y, or sorry, GZ, GZ. And then I'll move it up because this is vertically moving up. And you just get it right underneath it. Boom. Like that. And then I can scroll back out. And now I have, as I hold the middle mouse button down and cam around it, you can see it's about the same distance on all 4 sides, and that looks good. So that's where it's going to be. All right. Now, I don't need to UV map the shadow because it's just going to give me one UV. That's the entire size of the plane, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be proportional. It doesn't have to look right. It'll work out. It'll be fine. Once we create the transparent shadow, it'll be fine. You won't notice. So we'll just leave that, but I'm going to go ahead and stick a material on it, and I'm going to call the material shadow. Okay, I guess I already had one called shadow. Okay, so that's done. So the floor shadow is done now. If we want to rename it, we can rename it. So we'll just come up here and say shadow. You can call that shadow too. Okay. It's not 100% necessary to do with my workflow, but I do it anyway because that will affect the way the object parts get named when they goes into second line. For Substance Painter, the part names are based on material. So it separates things by materials. And so that would be this name shadow. But in Second Life, the actual parts of the prim, the linked prim pieces get their name from this. So if you don't want everything to be called cube something or other, then you need to rename it here. But it's actually this name, not this name. Okay, so we have this temporary cube and we have the floor shadow. So now what I want to do is I want to make my frame for this. And so if you think about it, I want this left side to be the outside edge of my frame. I want this to be the right side of my frame. This is to be the end of the foot, and this is to be the end of the head. And so I can spend a lot of time with some math and things like that to make sure things are perfect, or I can just do slight estimates. So I like to eyeball things, but there's an easy way you can make sure that these panels are in the right exact spot. So if I were to copy and clone this cube for the side rails, 1, 2 side rails, and the headboard and the footboard, then I can resize them and make sure that this side doesn't move. So you basically move your origin point over here, or whatever they call this, the 3D cursor. You move the 3D cursor here, and then you scale it to the 3D cursor, which is something you do in Second Life all the time, and it's super easy to do, but it's not super easy to do here. Because when you scale things, it scales from the center. It scales from the 3D cursor or whatever. It scales from that origin, which is that dot. And so what you want to do is you have to move that over here, and then you scale, and then everything slides one way. I just wish they had an easy control in the Blender like they do in Second Life for doing that, but they don't. So those are some ways. Or I just like to eyeball it. So I'm going to leave this cube alone. And we're just going to call it our what would that be? Dummy placeholder. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to put my posts in. So let's just go ahead and we'll do that from the start. We'll just say we'll do Shift A, and we will do a cube. And it appears at the origin point, and it's the same size as the last cube that we, default cube, which is 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. And I can adjust that here to say a different size. And then I think what happens is that if I adjust this here, the next time I make a cube, it makes it the size that I set this to. I think. But we're going to scale this down, or I can just set the dimensions here. So I don't know how big I want these posts to be. I know the ones that are in the bed that I created, I think were too big. So let's try making them smaller. And we're just going to scale this down. It helps to be overhead for this so you can kind of see. And you keep scaling it down until I get it a nice size. Then I'm going to move it with G and then limit it to the y-axis to get it to the end up there. Put it up here so that dot is about on the line. That way it'll be centered on this edge. And then we're going to move it on the x-axis until we get it about centered there. Now, what that'll mean is that I don't really want this to be centered, because if I center it, then this headboard and the sideboards would be centered as well, and that means that the edge would come out to here. And so I don't need it to come out to here. I need the edge to come here. So this has to come in a bit. So let's go and down. So we're going to move it G, X to about half that distance. Oop, not X, Z. Oop, Y. I don't know which axis I'm playing with. So instead of there, I want to move down about half that distance to about here. And then that's where the edge will come. And we're going to move in the same distance. G on the x-axis and move it into about there. All right. So that's where I want my post to be, in that corner. Now, how do I get... Let's look at the height of this. So we want the height of this post to be... This is the height of the mattress. And so in the design that I was given, I wanted the post to be around the height of the mattress, or maybe a little bit higher for the footboard, and then for the headboard they need to come up significantly higher. And again, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm just guessing. So let's go back and look at our model. So if you look at it from the side, you can see that the mattress is actually a little higher than these, and that's fine. I think that's the way it was in the design model that I looked at. So the mattress needs to be a little bit higher than this. So let's just stretch it. Oops. I don't want to stretch it the whole thing. I just want to stretch it vertically. So let's go S to stretch, and then Z to limit it to the Z axis, and just pull that. Keep repeating it till it gets about where I want it. If I look at it from the side with the 3 on the keypad, I can tell, okay, it's too long. So SZ will push it back in to that. Or I could just say, how big is this cube? It's 0.75. And I can go to this cube and I can make it 0.75 as well. And now I know it's exactly the same height as where the mattress is going to be. And I don't necessarily want that. But what that did get me was I know that it's on the ground now. This is because this is the same, it's this vertically, it's at the origin. It's the same size as this cube. So that means the bottom is going to be at the same place, which is the bottom of the whole thing. And that's fine. As far as the top goes, I can make this a little bit smaller just by going into edit mode by hitting the tab key. Then hit 3 for faces and then select the top face and then do G, Z, and then lower it down just about there. That's good enough. All right, so this post is done. It's exactly where I want it to be. It's the right size. So now what I want to do is clone it 3 times. I'm going to clone this one 3 times for this corner, this corner, this corner, and then we'll move them where they need to go. And since this is at the origin, then I can tell their positions from this one. I can say, okay, because these dimensions are from the origin. So if you take from the center point on the x-axis this way, that's what this value is, which is negative 1.0255. So if I want to have the post in exactly the same position on the left side, then it would be the same distance away, but in a positive direction. So it would be 1.0255. So let's go ahead and clone this by hitting Shift D. Then I want to move it on the x-axis, so I hit X, and then we're going to drag it over to about here. And you'll see that's what the x-axis is at 1.053 right now. But if you go back to this one, it's at negative 1.0255. So I can copy this and then click on this one and I can paste it and then just get rid of the negative. And there it is. So this one is in exactly the right position on the left side as this one is on the right. Now I want to get these 2 up there, but I don't want them moving left or right because I want to make sure that it's the same. So if I just clone these and move it on the y-axis that way, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take these and I'm going to clone them, Shift D on the y-axis, and then move them over to about here. Now, how do I know? The x dimension, distance is already correct because I didn't change it. So it's 1.0255, 1.0255, right? And then this one's going to be negative 1.21, negative 1.0255, and then the one back there is also going to be negative 1.0255. But as far as how far they are on the y-axis, well, this one is at 1.5236, this one is at negative 1.5316, and that's not the same. So we do the same thing on the opposite, on the other axis now. So I'm just going to take this one, my starting one, I'm going to copy its y coordinate, and I'm going to paste this. And this only works because the object is still centered on the origin and on all 3 axes, right? So we're going to come here, I'm going to paste this, and if I leave it like that, it's going to put it where the other one was, so I have to use the other sign. So that one's positive, so this one's going to be negative. Boom. Oh, that was wrong. What did I do wrong? I put it in the X instead of the Y. All right, so we'll copy the Y. We'll go to the Y over here. All right, Y. So you see the Y is negative here, so we're just going to paste this in, and we're going to make it negative. We're putting a negative side in front. And there it is. Okay, so that one's done. And then, I thought I already cloned those, did I not? It's this one. 2. That must be in the back there. 4 is over here. Okay. So I do have it over there. I just can't see it. Ah, there it is. All right. So the same thing. This one is at 1.52361. And then we'll pick this one and we'll set it to the same thing, but put a negative in front. Or we could have just copied it from this one. And there we go. So now we have our posts where they need to be, right? Except for the headboard, I want the posts to be taller. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the two that we're going to use as our headboard, which I'm arbitrarily choosing these two. Go into edit mode by hitting tab. And then make sure we have the top face selected. And then we're going to hit G for move. And then Z-axis, limit it for vertical. Pull it up till we have it where we want it to be for our headboard, which let's just say about there. Go a little higher. G, Z, up a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So now that's done. Okay. Now I want to get the side rails and the headboard and the footboard. There's a couple of ways we could do that. We could start by just dropping in a cube, moving the cube where we want it, and then adjusting it. But this might not be beneficial, but it seems like an idea to me. This is how I would do it if I was building this in Second Life. I would do it. So let's try it and do it here. I'm going to take these two. Yes, I'm going to take these two and I'm going to clone them and then move them to the middle on the x-axis, drag them over. And then all I got to do is really just change that to 0 because we're still centered on the origin. So 0 would be the middle. Same thing here. Put that at 0. Okay. So that's going to give, this is going to become the headboard. This is going to become the footboard. And I know they're centered on these posts. By doing it that way, I know this is going to be centered on these posts. So even if I make it thinner, it still is going to be centered on these two posts. So I don't have to adjust it because I know it's centered. Same thing for the side rails. I want the side rails to be centered on these posts. So what I can do is I can just copy these two. So we're going to do Shift D, and then we're going to hit Y for the Y-axis, move them over here towards the center. And then I can just go up here and change the Y coordinate to 0. Again, because we're still centered on the origin, and 0 is the center. All right, so that's going to become the side rail, and this is going to become the side rail. All right, now let's go ahead and hide this center one. We're going to click on it, and we're going to hit H to hide it. All right, now let's go ahead and take both of these, and we're going to look at it from the end. And then I want to scale this on the x-axis until it's just about the right length of this. And so again, I eyeball it. You could turn on snap so that it snaps to the right place, and then you have it exactly the same. But nothing in man-made is actually perfect, right? So you want to build in a little bit of imperfections, or at least I think you do. So it's okay not to be exactly right. So I'm going to scale this, and I'm going to say limit it to the x-axis and pull. And just keep doing that till I get it to go about there. And I'm good. Now let's look at it. Okay, so there's our post, footboard, headboard. And now this headboard's the same height as those posts. This is the same height as those. And now if I don't want it to be the same height, and I want them to be a little bit lower than that, well, actually, if you look at this one, I don't know if you can tell, it might not be that obvious. The center of this is higher than the sides. So I want the center of this to be the same height as those posts. So that's another reason why I did it this way. So I want the center of the top to be the same height as those posts, but I want the edges over here to come down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode, select 2 for edges, and I'm going to do Control R to add an edge loop right in the middle. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one, add an edge loop right in the middle. Okay. Now with both of them selected, what I want to do is I want to select this edge and this edge, this edge and this edge, and I'm going to lower them. And that way, if I do them all at the same time, they lower the same amount. So that the effect is going to be the same. The front and the back, the headboard and the footboard, they're going to have the same top, which is what I want. So I'm in edge selection mode, so I'm going to select these by clicking and holding the shift key, get all 4 of them. Then I want to go back to my end mode, end view, which is 1. 3 is the side view, 1 is the end view. And then I'm going to just lower those. And this is me using shift and holding down the middle mouse button to get this in the middle here. Scaling it up, hit G, Z, and start pulling them down. And see, now they all go down proportional. I'm going to make this a little more extreme than I did on the one I did before, so you can actually see that this is changing. Okay, about there. So by doing all 4 at the same time, the distance from the top of the headboard post to the headboard frame is the same. And the same thing for the footboard to the post. This distance is the same as this distance. And that gives me that uniformity that I wanted to see. So now if I just pull this out and look, you can see I have that going. Now I want to make the headboard and the footboard more narrow so that they fill this, so they don't go all the way to the edge. So select both of them. Then you want to make sure that you have individual origins selected instead of the meeting point. Because if I try to scale this now, it's going to scale it from this center point, and it's going to bring in the outer edges into the middle, and it's not going to look right. I want these to be centered on themselves, on their own center, so that when I scale them, they just get skinnier. So for that, you need to select individual origins. So each object has its own origin, which is that orange dot in the very middle. So now if I scale them on the y-axis, they'll get skinnier as opposed to being related to the center of the object. Okay, so we're going to hit S. And again, I'm just eyeballing this. We're going to hit S, and then on the y-axis, and we'll pull that in, and you can see they get skinnier. Boom, like that. Okay. Now we want to do the side rails, which is going to be these two. So we're going to do something very similar. I'm going to select them. We're going to go to the side view, and we're going to scale them on the y-axis until they get just to the end. Scale on the y-axis. May have to do this a few times. There's a way to increase the sensitivity of that while you're doing it, and I can't remember the command for that. I forgot. But anyway, so I just do it over and over again. S on the Y. Ooh, there we go. I don't have snap turned on, so again, I'm just doing this. In Japanese, they say tekito. Means basically I'm eyeballing it roughly. Okay, so now we have the sides, which kind of looks cool, but I only want my side rails to be, so about like from here to here. So let's go ahead and scale these down on the Z-axis. Select both of them and then scale on the Z. Pull that down to the thickness that I think I want, which is a little bit thicker than the posts, so something like that. And then how high do we want them to be off the sides? Well, for that I need to look at the dummy placeholder again. So this is the top of the top mattress. So I might want these to be a little thicker because you're going to have a mattress that's going to come down to about there. Then you're going to have a box springs that comes down to like here. So if I leave these where they are, that's how high the bed foot's going to be. Which I think is actually okay. I think that's okay. On the one I did, I lowered this a lot. I made this thicker and I lowered it down. Let's make it a little bit taller. So we're going to scale on the Z, make it a little taller. And then we can go down a little bit. G on the Z, about there. I'm going to hide that again. All right, there we go. Now you have the side rails for your bed. But again, I don't want my side rails to be exactly the same size as this posts, I don't want them to be super skinny, but I want them to be a little bit so to give us some character. So I'm going to select those. This time we're going to scale on the X axis, so S, X, and just pull those in a little bit to give some character. And that will also create shading and stuff. So there you go. Now we have a bed frame that's done. And this is as low poly as it's going to get, right? Actually, that's not true. All right. So before we move on to the mattresses, let's finish up this frame. So there are polygons in here that are not going to get seen, and that should be removed. Now, if I really want to be judicious in that, I could remove a lot more. But then I would also, in order to do that, I have to cut up things, and that adds polygons. So you probably don't know what I'm talking about. So let's just look at these parts. Think of them as wood. Think of them as wood. What part of this, if each one of these, so this is wood, so this is one board, that's a 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 board. Okay? And this is a board. Each one of these individual parts in the real world would be an individual board, right? So what parts of those boards are never going to be seen by the human eye? We can remove those parts. So I could remove the end of this, the face that's on the end here, on the end of these sideboards. I could remove the face at the end of these. I could remove the bottoms of all of these because they're never going to show. And then for the headboard and the footboard, those faces on the ends are completely covered by the posts, so I can get rid of the face on the ends of those. Okay? And since I made these... Okay, before I get into that, let's discuss some of the reasons why I want to get that. That reduces your polygon count. That's all. It just reduces your polygon count. Now, in order for me to bevel these and bevel them correctly, I want to keep those ends on. I want to keep the ends on for now. Eventually, we're going to get rid of them. And I think in order for me to reduce my polygon count, I want to do that. Okay, I got to remember, I'm trying to do this for LOD. And so for LOD's sakes, I want to get it as low as possible. So I probably want to remove them. But I need them to be there when I bevel, so I probably have to put them back when I bevel and then remove them again. But for now, I need to keep them. Okay? So I'm just going to leave them for now. We'll remove them at some point. Is that what I want to do? No, I'm going to remove them now. So we'll do that. We'll remove them now. We can always add them back. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure I save various versions of this model, as my dog is barking in the background. All right, so in order to do this, we're going to take the ends off of both of these. So we're going ahead and isolate these so we only see these two things by hitting the question mark or the slash key. And that just temporarily hides everything else. Now we're going to go into edit mode, select the faces on the ends. So 3 for face mode, select the faces on the ends. And then we're going to delete them. Then what I want to do is I could probably harden this, and that way we'll preserve it. So when I bevel, it should be all right. So the reason, maybe I can talk about it here. Let's undo that. So if I want to bevel this and bevel it all the way around, let's see what happens when I do that. I'm going to select, we're not going to save this. I'm going to undo it. We'll select 2 for edges, and then we're going to select all the edges. And before we do that, let's make sure we apply our transformation. So we're going to do Control A, all transformations, and then we're going to set origin back to the geometry. Now that I did that, it'll bevel correctly. So, okay, go back into edit mode, 2 for edges, A for all, have all my edges, and then hit Control B and drag, and that will apply a bevel. And you see how it looks correct. This is the way I want it to look. So it gives us the sharp edge all the way around, right? It gives us like a little beveled edge all the way around. Okay, but I'm going to undo that. And then this is to show you why I don't want to remove these yet. And if it doesn't affect it at all, then we're fine and we can go ahead and remove them. But if I remove these faces, and now I bevel it, what happens? I think it doesn't look right. Yep, exactly. It didn't bevel this. And that's why I need to hold on to this. So it didn't bevel the ends of this. It only beveled the ones going this way. So that's why. So yeah, we're gonna leave the ends on for now. No, we're gonna take the ends off now. I'll put them back on when I go to the next LOD. All right, so there we go. Those are gone. The other thing I want to do is I want to set my seams for UV mapping. And so I'm going to go ahead and mark these seams. So I'm going to select the end. I'm going to put a seam down here. This line right here is going to have my seam. And then, do I want to do that now? Yes, I do want to do that now. So we're going to UV map it at this stage and create the UV maps and then try to carry those UV maps forward as we go. So we're going to select the ends on all of these. And we will say edge, mark seam, and then we're going to use the seam that's kind of the hidden one in there. The interior. And we will do edge, mark seam. All right, so now that we've got those seams marked, if we were wanting to UV map this, we can just go over to UV. And if I go, UV changed in 4.3, so it's gotten way better, but I'm not quite sure how to use some of these yet. Like that worked. Right. But if I want to do smart UV project, it's in here now. Smart UV project. Tell it I want to go horizontal. There we go. So that's what my UV map's going to look like now. If I had left the end on there, then there would be a square UV here somewhere, or a rectangular UV for the ends, but I don't have that. So this UV map will work forever on this build once I've done this. So I should be able to preserve this UV map as we go forward. So I want to do that on the other pieces as well. So that was 2 here. Now, the only thing on these posts that is not going to be seen is the bottom. There's a part here that won't be seen, and I could go in and try to remove that, but in order to do that, I have to add edge loops, and then now you've created more polygons, and so I'm not going to do that. So the only thing that we're going to get rid of on all 4 posts is the bottom. Hit the question mark to isolate it, tab to go into edit mode, 3 for faces, and then we're going to select all 4 of those and hit delete and faces. Now let's go ahead and put in some edge loops while we're here. So I want to do the same thing. We're going to do 2, select. Okay. We have to do shift select because it's not letting me do control shift select. We're selecting the faces at the top. And we're going to do edge mark seam. Select the 4 at the bottom. See, this one does, I can hold Alt down and it selects the whole thing. Now if I do Shift Alt and click, it should do the whole bottom. There we go. That's what I was trying to do at the top, but for some reason it wouldn't work. Edge, mark seam. Now I got to figure out which of these do we want to use. So I want to use the insidest most, which would be this one. This one, this one and this one, right? Should be the 4 on the inside. Yep, okay. And then edge mark seam for that. Okay. And those are done. I'm not gonna UV map. I'm gonna go back and UV map the parts that I want to stick together. I'm not going to join anything in this because I think that would make it more complicated because I'd have to. It's hard to unjoin things. That's the thing. So if I join them, I think it's best to join them at the end, but then. I may have to do. I have to think about that one. Let's just not join them. Wait a minute. Things that don't make sense. I could join these. I could join these. I could join the sides. I think I can join all of them. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to join. We're going to create the frame, headboard, and footboard separately. Okay. What am I doing? Go back. Yep. Okay. So there's that. Okay. So I took the ends off of those. What I'm thinking about is here's the conundrum that I have. I think if I join all this now, then when I go to do the beveling, I think we're going to have some challenges with that. Possibly. It's potential. So not having done it, and I'm not sure, I think it's best not to join things that don't make sense not to join. So I can join the 4 posts. That's fine because they don't touch anything. They wouldn't be touching each other. I can join the 2 side rails because they're not touching each other. And then I can join the headboard with the footboard because they're not touching anything. So those are okay to join for what I'm going to do. But I saw something that I don't like. I don't like my headboard and my footboard touching the ground. So let's go ahead and select both of those. We'll isolate it with a slash or the question mark. Go into edit, and we will select the bottom faces, hit 3, and then select the faces here. Now I can unisolate by hitting that, and I see everything, and those things stay selected. Then hit 3. No, let's go 1. And then I'm going to G for move and Z to restrict it to the vertical Z axis and pull that up a little bit. And now I'm going to move around my cam. I want it to be, and the reason I select all of them is so that they go up the same amount. I want it to be up from the floor, but not as high as this. So let's go a little bit higher. Like there. That way the feet actually show more clearly and it looks better. All right. Since I changed the size of that, now change the size of some, did I change the size of anything? I don't know what all I've changed the size of. So let's just select everything, do Control A, all transforms, and then set origin back to geometry. That way everything gets cleaned up. So if you don't do that and you try beveling, sometimes the beveling, it's going to be proportional to what the shape was before you made those changes. But by applying your transformations, when you do the beveling, it bases it on what the size of the model is at that moment. And not just beveling, some other things too. All right. So now let's do I did those. Took the bottoms off that. And now since I've raised this up, I don't want to get rid of the bottom of my headboard and my footboard because they might be visible. But the ends will not be visible. So we can do that. Let's go ahead and select both of those, isolate, and go to edit mode, hit 3 for faces, and pick the sides. Like that. And then delete them. Faces. And now where do I want my edges for this? So I think you want these 2 panels to be together. So you kind of want to edge a seam all the way around it, right? And then there's no sides, so that kind of makes sense. But you want this to go with one. So I would probably do like that on both ends. So those are seams. Edge mark seam. Then I want, I'm trying to think about the grain of the wood matching and everything like that, and doing it here. I can go ahead and put in edge loops or these seams and try to get it to automatically do it, but a lot of times it doesn't really matter because I'm going to do my UVs using Smart UV unwrap and then stitching. So I think it's okay. We'll just pick like all 4 of those. And the same thing here. I want the faces for the, like that. Okay, and we'll just do edge. I'm basically picking all the edges except the one down the middle, right? I could have just done that. Right? Yeah. Okay, so everything is selected except the edge loop down the middle. Right. Okay. And let's go back. Okay, so I think these things ready to UV map. I think. And let's think about it. Why don't I do the side rails separate? So we'll have this, I'll join it, object join. Posts we'll make separate. We'll do object join on that. Side rails, posts, headboard, and footboard we can join together. Object join. Boom. All right, so I've got those objects. So let's go ahead and put materials on these, and then we'll UV map them. So this is going to be material. We're going to call that head and footboard. Then this one we're going to call side rails. And this one we're going to call posts. Okay. Now let's go ahead and rename them as well. Cube 3 become posts. Oops. Posts. This one becomes side rails. Side rails. And this is head and footboard. Good. So we have posts, head and footboard, side rails. They'll have materials, and I renamed them. Okay. So that part of the bed is now done. Nope, I got to UV map it. Okay, so that's almost done. So we're going to UV map these. And now, because I want it to be proportional, I want the wood grain to match. If I do a wood grain, I want it to look consistent across these. It's good if you can try to UV map them all at the same time, or at least the pieces that make the most sense to do that. And since I already broke these things down, I'm going to do that. Okay, so yeah, let's do the UV map for this and the UV map. I'm just trying to think about that. You want the wood grain to look the same size on these as you do these, so it might be best to do the UV maps of those together. That way they're proportional to each other. Even though they're going to be on separate objects, it doesn't matter. It will only use the portion of it that applies to it. So you can go into UV editing, select everything, and then I like to do UV, Smart UV project, horizontal, scaled, unwrap. So you get all the parts now. And then, okay, what do I do with them? Well, you start stitching them together. And so the way you do that, make sure you have 2 selected, and then you pick an edge. So you have everything selected on the right-hand side so that it shows up on the left-hand side. Because if you don't have it selected, it won't show up over here. All right, and then we're going to select that edge. just by clicking on it. And then you hit right shift and do stitch, or you hit Alt V, stitch. So now that's stitched two together. If you want to see what they are, just click off of it so nothing is selected, and then mouse over it and hit L to select the island. And you can see now it's two different islands that have been joined together. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way so you can see it more easily. Now, so this is going to be one of the boards. It looks like it's one of the side rails. And this is the length of one of the faces. This is either this face or the inside face, and I don't know which one it is. And then this is either the top or the bottom. And so let's stitch that together. So we have top, side, bottom, and then we're going to stitch one here, which will be the other side. Like that. Okay, again, I don't know whether this is the front or the back. This is the top or the bottom. And then we have the ends, but there are no ends on that one. So that's probably done. So let's do the other one. We'll do the same thing. Stitch. 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 And there's the other one. It's done. So those are the stitching together. So what does stitching together do? That means that when the texture gets applied, it's going to go across these things. So if you have grains, they will all flow together. If you have patterns on your material, the pattern will flow along these UV maps, these islands. And so you want to make sure that if you have areas where you want things to flow, that you stitch them together and it will flow across the stitches. It's not so important with this, but I do want them to look like it's not four separate pieces of wood, right? This is one board, so the graining should wrap around it. If I don't do this, then you look at one side of the board, it's going to have one grain pattern. You look at the board right next to it, it's going to have a different grain pattern, and they're not going to make sense. It's not going to look like it came off of one board. And so that's why you stitch it together. So, okay, that was the sideboards. Let's do the posts. Or this might have been the vertical posts. I'm not sure. You can tell, but if you click over here on a face and maybe do like that, you can see, okay, that board is this. So that's the outside. And then this board is there. Oh, did it stitch the wrong place? I don't know. Then if I go back and select like this, you can see, okay, yeah. You can see this is the face that's selected here of that board. Okay, you can see where they are. So this is this. But if you select everything, it shows up like this. All right. So let's go back over here, make sure 2 is selected, and we will. And then we'll start stitching these together. They may look stitched, but they're not. So you can tell they're not stitched because if you do L and select the island, it only selects one. So if you're really good at aligning things, you can align it like this. You don't have to stitch, but it's just easier to stitch them. So I'm going to use stitch, stitch, stitch. I think that gives me 4. Move it out of the way. Stitch, stitch. Did I do it already? Yep, I did. Okay. Stitch. I don't know where they're going to go. Oh, they went together, it looks like. Nope, it's this one. Don't know where they're all going. Okay, there's 4. Stitch, there's 4. So these are the 2 shortest posts, right? This is a footboard post. This is a footboard post here, and these are the headboard posts. All right, so then we got to figure out what to do with the end caps. So there should be 4 end caps, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. Yep, and the bottoms doesn't have them. So this is where you really think about where do I want my grain to align. So to go, the grain will flow from here. So if I put it here and stitch it on here, then the grain of wood is going to go up this post like that. So it doesn't really matter because you could rotate the post anyway. So just pick one and do stitch. Oop. Maybe do them on here. Stitch. It's the easiest way. we go. So now each of the posts has an end cap. Now, we can take our islands and arrange them within the UV. So this square represents your UV map, and so we're just going to select the islands and we're going to move them. And so now the wood grain is going to match perfectly because it's proportional. So this post is smaller than this side rail, so therefore the UV map needs to be the same, proportionally smaller than this. And they are, because I did it all at one time. And I told it scale them when I did the smart unwrap. All right. So then we take these. We're going to move them on here. And just going to move this boy up. I limited the direction of movement with the Y key. So then select this one, GY. Something like that. Okay. So this is the UV map for the side rail and the post. And it doesn't matter that it's one, and they're two different objects and they use the same UV. That's fine. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now let's do the UV maps for the head and foot. And we will go into UV editing, and I will make sure that X-rays turned on so you can see through everything, select everything, and then we're going to do the same thing. Unwrap. Let's see, I could play with this one. I can do angle base. It looks like that. That is actually probably right. It's probably not bad. Or maybe I just go with that. Nope, I won't, because the tops are not right. Conformal, I don't know what that does. Minimum stretch. And then smart UV project. Rips everything apart and sticks it like so. All right. Now, I want to get the tops and bottoms on and aligned somehow. So basically, I think the way to do that is to select the top part and hit stitch. I didn't split those. What if I can do that? Can I split that? That didn't. Why did it not split those? Oh, because I didn't put a seam on it. That's why. It didn't split these because I assumed it would be one continuous thing like that, which it can be, but if I stitch it, now it's going to look weird. So this is going to be aligned with that, but this is going to go off at an angle. So either I need to split this and do it, this matches this matches this, but if I want it to go continuously across the whole thing, then I don't want to stitch them. So I'm going to undo my stitching. Do you understand that? It's okay. If I want it to look like that, that's fine. It's just going to, but let's turn this upside down in case I want to put some kind of text or something on here. It's easier. R, I'm going to rotate 180. And just put it in the middle. G on the x-axis, somewhere around there. All right, so the UV maps for the headboard and the footboard are done. I have UV maps for everything. Yep. Okay, good. All right, so I've got the UV maps done for the frame of the bed. And if let's just do. I'm getting tired of working on this. We're just probably gonna do LOD 1 in this first video and then stop because I still have a bunch to do. So we need the mattress box springs. So we need the box springs, a mattress, a blanket, and instead of doing this, I'm going to try to do a different. Let's just do a simple mattress, a simple box spring and mattress. We'll add a pillow and one blanket that I can do as a cloth. So it won't be the same as the model that I did, but it'll be a little bit easier. And then we'll get to play with two different cloth objects and then the mattress and box springs. So And I can do the mattress and box springs a lot more simply. Right, so that's 2 things I gotta build instead of 1, 2, 3, 4 things I gotta build. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and now I can show my dummy thing again. And I could probably use that as one of my mattresses if I really want. So we're gonna scale that on the y-axis to bring it in. We go up to the top view and look down. So I want that to fit within here and here. So we're going to scale this on the x-axis till it's something like that. And I'm just going to scale it up. To fit like right there. And on the y. So the corners are going to be at, corners of this are going to bump into that, but I don't care. It's okay. Okay, and now I want to keep that height where it is, but I need 2 of these. I need 1 for the box spring and 1 for the... All right, so I'm just going to make the mattress first, and then I'll add the box spring. So let's go ahead and isolate that, edit mode, select that face, the bottom, and then go back here. And we're going to go G, about there for the mattress, like so. And then we're going to go, let's go ahead and let's UV map that. Yep, we're going to UV map this sucker. That way I can copy it. Copy the UV map. So we're going to do it once. All right, so there is that. We're going to do smart UV project, horizontal, unwrap, and there it is. Why is that square when this is rectangular? What do you think? Do you have any idea why that might be square when this is a rectangle? Should be proportional. It's because we need to apply our transforms and set origin. Now, if I go back in here and I do that again, it became rectangles. That's why you always got to make sure you apply your transforms. Whenever you change the shape of something, you need to apply those transforms so that these tools all recognize it and do things proportionally. So now I actually have shapes that match my design. All right, so now I got to figure out which one of these is the top. So this is already selected. Yep. So this face is selected. That's why this one's gray. That's the top. So this is definitely going to be visible. So I want to make sure that the sides here, if I put down, say I wanted to put a plaid on this and I have stripes that are going vertically and stripes that are going this way, I want to make sure that the sides, that texture is going to flow and not be broken off. And so I want this side to be stitched right here on this seam. And that's one of the long sides, right? So let's go ahead and move this out of the way by doing L and moving it over here. Or it already has one, so it already stitched one here, which is good. Let's go ahead and stitch the other one. There we go. So it came that way, it was pre-stitched. So now if I have a cloth pattern that's going to go on here with the stripes, those stripes are going to go be aligned here, and then so it'll look like it's going over the sides. And then I want to make sure I do the same thing for the top and the bottom. So we're going to stitch there, and we're going to stitch here. And now, the bottom of this mattress we're never going to see because it's a mattress, but I still need it until I do all my beveling, right? So we're gonna stitch that on to right there. Then we'll take the whole thing and put it back inside. And then what I like to do is scale it until it fits. Okay, so that mattress is done. Now, and so this is a side, and I have it looking like it's going to be, I'm trying to think about patterns. So if I have something that I want to go this way, I would want it to be oriented here, so I need to rotate this. Yeah, I thought I did. I need to rotate this whole thing like so. Okay. Now, I don't know which one's the top and the bottom. I could figure it out. So if I click on that, okay, so this is the bottom of the bed. So remember that. Okay, that's the bottom of the bed. That's the top of the bed. This is the front. Okay. Yep. And then this. Okay. I think this is actually gonna work well. So if I wanted to write something on here, I could just write it right here. It'll show up right there. That's why I wanted to get the orientation right. Okay, so that's done. I'm not going to apply a material yet because I'm going to clone this. So let's go ahead and do Shift D. I'll actually go to side view. Shift D, Z, and pull it down. Like that. Then you want them to be really close together. So like so. It's a little bit of a gap, but that's okay. I don't think anybody will notice it. And now, when you look at it from the side, this is inside of here. Now, I could remove this face if I don't think anyone's ever going to look underneath it. All right. Why would anybody really look underneath the bed like that? They're not going to. There's no reason for them to. So we could remove that. And definitely the top face is never going to be seen because it's going to be underneath there. We could remove it as well, but I need to bevel these things. So nothing has been beveled, right? And that's fine because this is the lowest LOD model. Okay, so now we have box springs. We'll go ahead and assign a material to that. We'll call it box springs. And then this one we'll call mattress. Okay. And so everything has material. Okay. Now we want a pillow and a blanket. All right. So I want one pillow that's going to go right there. And so to make pillows, you can either use a cube and shrink it down, or you can use a plane and build it up. And I usually do a plane. So we're going to do Shift A, and then we're going to do Mesh Plane. And I like to go to the top view, 7, so I can see it. We're going to scale this down. It's going to be a wide pillow. I'm only going to do one pillow. I'm not doing 2. And then so scale that on the, limit it on the Y. Something like that. My stomach growls. Pull that up. G, and we're going to move it kind of up here. So it's a wide pillow. It's a little skinny, so maybe a little thicker on the Y-axis. So scale Y. How about that? Look good? All right. And hit the question mark to isolate it. We're going to, I'm not going to do a lot with this. I am going to I'm not going to subdivide it yet. We'll do that later. So this is the lowest LOD. So we're going to go into edit mode, select that face, and we're going to pull it up a little bit. and then pull it up a little bit more. I could have just done that and put an edge loop down the middle, either way. And then select this edge loop in the middle. And we're going to scale it out. Like that. It didn't scale as much on this way because I didn't apply my transformations. And now, if I scale that out, it should scale more proportionally. Aha, look at that, it did. Okay, and we're going to mark that as an edge. Mark seam. And then I want to take these corners and I'm going to mark those. And this becomes our UV map is going to become this. And I'm going to create the UV map now too. So there you go. Edge, mark seam. And then let's go back. We'll go to UV editing, select everything, UV unwrap. I did this yesterday and I got different results. So let me try that. Okay, that looks right. Yep, we'll keep it like that. The only problem I don't like about this is that it turned it this way. I like to have my textures going this way. So let's do that. Not sure if it's a perfect fit or not. I have to zoom in really tightly. G. And if I go look at this side, where's the bottom? See, it's outside. Okay, that's what I thought. So I'm going to scale the whole thing down just a wee bit. Okay, it's inside now. That's good. All right, I'm done with that. So that's the UV map from my pillow. We'll go ahead and add a material to that. We'll call it, whoops, we'll call it pillow. Okay. Okay, so that's material for that is called pillow. Okay, mattress. And I did UV map both of those. So that's on that. Okay, and then the blanket. The last one to do is a blanket. And that's going to be the same thing as a pillow. So I'm actually going to take that. It's done the same way as a pillow. So I'm going to just copy my pillow. Shift D, Y, and then stretch it. This is going to become a blanket. S on the X-axis. Oops, wrong one. S on the Y-axis. Then make the whole thing. Ooh, I don't make it that big. So we're going to make it on the, we're going to not do the Z-axis. I don't want to make it any thicker. So this is S, and then you hit Shift Z, and it does everything except Z. And we make it bigger than the bed because this is a blanket that's going to drape. It's going to be a cloth mattress that drapes. Like so. Maybe make it a little wider. X. So that it drapes down. It's going to drape a lot. It's going to hit the floor. Don't think so. Okay, that's going to be my blanket. Now let's apply the Control A to apply my transform, set origin back to geometry. Okay, now let's check our UV map on that. Should be the same. It's just the proportions are slightly different. Okay. All right, so that's done. We're going to change that. We're going to remove pillow from it, and we're going to do new, and we're going to call it blanket. And then if I want, I can rotate that blanket a little bit. On the Z-axis. Okay. Only problem with this is the blanket, it doesn't have a shape to it. Because I didn't make it cloth and I haven't made it drop yet. Because it doesn't have any prim. So I've not done this before with the blanket. So I'm not sure what'll happen with this. But let's try it and see. Let's just try it and see. So I'm going to take both of these, lower them down till they're just on top of the bed, like so. I just think this is big, and I think it's going to be a potential issue. Well, who knows? We'll see. All right. So that's that. That's that. That's that. We're going to save this. Save as test twin bed lowest poly. And then I'm going to export it as the same name. Go to my documents, boom. Okay. Now let's import that into Second Life just for fun. So build, upload. I would never use it because it's the low poly one, right? And the blanket doesn't look right. Just going to pull it in as it is. It's 4 LI. So with everything at the maximum, it imported at 4 LI. And that's what it looks like because, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. This is going to show. I don't know. I don't know how to avoid that except to create the blanket separately and then do a low poly blanket, reset to another one, and have them already be somewhat deformed as cloth. But we'll see. We'll try it this way and see what happens. So that's low poly. Okay. So let's go back to our model. And try it that way. All right. So I'm going to hide that and hide that. And I'm not going to play with them for a while because they're going to get high poly. And so I just don't want to deal with them until I get later on. But these are not so bad. So let's take the posts, the headboard, take all the wooden pieces. Do I have to put the ends back on? This is what I don't know, if I have to put the ends back on to get it to work right. So let's try it and see. We'll go to object mode, 2A, Control B. Yeah, see, it's not doing the feet, which I want it to do. And it didn't do the ends of those things. Okay, so yeah, it does. Okay, that answers my question. So, therefore, we have to put them back on. So just take that. So all you got to do is select the end with be in edge select mode and then do Alt and then click on it and it selects the whole loop and then hit F. Do the same thing over there and hit F. and then do it here to, all right, so I think that's all 4 of them. So now that that polygon is there, when I do the beveling, it'll actually bevel that face, those edges, the edge loop as well. All right, so let's get back to this one. That was those. How about, let's do this next. I'm gonna go isolate, edit, fill, 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 and fill. Okay. Then we go back. And post. Fill, fill, fill. It's a little bit of undoing some stuff, but it's not that bad. All right, so those are fixed, those are fixed, those are fixed. Okay, so now I can do, let's make sure, apply transform, set origin to geometry. Okay, now I'm gonna go edit mode to everything, control B, and now it did it. I don't want a lot of beveling on there, but you can see now I have a beveling at the bottom, which creates a kind of like a foot, and I want it to have that foot. Okay. And you can see the red marks there are showing you what it did with the seams. So it's a little weird. Okay, but now we can go back and redo what we've done. So we can take this, isolate it, go there, and now I can get rid of those faces again. I only needed them to do that. And now they're just taking up space. And the reason I do it this way, this will never be seen, but this will. The beveled part will be seen, but the flat part won't ever be seen. And so we'll do the same thing here. These will never be seen. And it just reduces your polygon count, so it helps keep things smaller. Okay. And the posts. I haven't done them yet. I did do them. Side rails that I didn't do. Yep. Okay. And oh, gotta do them one by one. Can't do them all at one time. You gotta do them one by one. It would have been a disaster if I had done that. All right. And now we go back. That's all beveled. But I'm not going to bevel these mattresses yet. I'm going to save that for the next level of detail. Okay. So we select everything. Oh, I got to unhide the pillows. Oops. There we go. Select everything. File, export, colada, lowest poly, low poly, and file, save as, just to be safe. All right. So hide this again, hide this again. And now we're going to make our mattresses low poly. Select both of them. Control A, I'll transform, set origin to geometry. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing. Edit mode to all. Control B for bevel, and this one, I want the bevel to be more pronounced. Like pretty deep like that. But I want to round it off, so I roll the mouse wheel as I do it, and it adds more geometry. And now it looks like a mattress. Okay. And auto smooth. I wonder what the difference between, yeah, it doesn't really make a difference. Smooth does. Okay, they're both done. And okay, so this will be the next level of detail. And then the next level of detail we'll have. Maybe I shouldn't even have the blankets in the low level of detail. Don't think it will matter. Yeah, I don't think it would matter if I have the blankets there or not. So let's just not have them. I'll go back and I'll reload that and change that. No, let's not change the strategy in the middle. We'll do it with the blankets, and if it doesn't look right, then I'll come back and try it again like that. Because I have an idea. I can try it without the blankets. And I'm saving these, so it should be fine. Alt-H, okay. Save everything. Export. This would be medium, probably, I guess. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do is these blankets. So the blanket and the pillow. So on this piece, I want them to collide. So we're going to add a physics for collide. Collision, set it to 0.002 the thickness outer. And set this is the friction pretty high. Because I don't want this blanket to slide off. Okay, so that's that. And then this one, this pillow won't collide with it, but the blanket will, so I need to add a collision. Oops. 0.2. And then we want to have the friction up pretty high. Okay. Then you have the frame. This will do the same thing. It's going to touch it, so I need to do that. Collision 0.02 and friction up pretty high. Okay. Now I don't know if it's going to reach the floor, but just in case, we'll do collision on it too. And I don't care about the friction. And then pillow might touch that, so let's go ahead and add collision to that too. Okay. And I don't care about the friction on that. All right, so that gives me collision on everything that could get touched. And now we're going to start subdividing this. And so 2, we're going to add trying to think, how many do I want? Let's do 30. And then this way we'll do 20. That's good enough for this example. This is enough detail. I probably would do more it's big, so I might, yeah, it is kind of big. So I think what I'll do is just add one more level of subdivision, simple, or I don't want to do that. Let's do that one. I'll go ahead and apply it. Now if you look at the geometry got a lot busier, right? And then on this one, we're going to take it and add one down the middle. It gives me 2 on each side, right? And then here we're going to do, I don't know why I didn't do it 20. Could have just done it that way. 10. Yeah. And then this way. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, let's just undo that. And just do 20 this way. And it probably need more than that. Let's do 30 this way. Nope. Let's do 40 that way. And we'll do 30 this way. Okay, they're rectangular. I didn't want to, I want them to be square, but that's okay. Okay, so that's going to have a lot of polygons. This has a lot of polygons. All right, let's go ahead and make this cloth. This is going to be a pillow. This is just going to be a blanket. Right, but they behave basically the same. So we're going to add cloth modifier under physics. We're going to set it to the default one of cotton. And then we are going to come down to collisions. And I bumped that up to probably 5 for equality. Change the distance. I don't like this. 1.5 is way too much, but let's just change it to 0.5 and see what that does. And then self collisions. Yes, we want it to have self collisions. I don't really care about the friction distance. I want it to be pretty close. So maybe 0.5. Okay. And so then this is done. And we can, oh, it's going to hit that too. Do I have collision on this? Thought I put collision on the post. I guess I did not put collision on the posts. So we will. And we don't have it on the head and footboard. But I need it on the head and footboard. Oh, I do. Right there, collision. Okay. Collision, collision, collision. Okay. Everything has collision. So we're going to reset our timeline and then hit spacebar. And there goes the cloth. And it creates our blanket. It's got to let it settle. As it's doing its thing. Sometimes it freaks out. The physics starts going crazy and I don't know what happens. It's like it's billowing back out again. Then it comes back down. While it's doing that, the other side's going out. Now that side's coming down and the left is blowing back out. A little ripple. I only have it set to do 250 frames, so if it doesn't stabilize by 250 frames, sometimes you have to extend your timeline to get it. or you end up with weirdly billowing. That's the end right there. Boom. Okay. So now it's playing the animation. You just got to find a frame that you like. See that this the air picks up underneath there. I don't like that. So scrub it till you get one. Like, see, that's actually right there is actually probably pretty good. Very early on. Let's see. Left and right. Is it on the ground? Nope. So that looks pretty cool. I think I'll keep that. Somewhere like right there. Okay. And then just go apply that. Boom. And shade smooth. Okay, so that's that. Now let's do the pillow. Pillow, we're going to add cloth to that. So you physics, cloth, reset the timeline. That's what I saw it drop. That made me say, oh, where did it go? It's because the timeline was set. All right, and so collisions. Yes, we want collisions. They don't need to be that great. These three. Distance, again, I think the distance is just too big. It creates gaps around everything. And self collisions, yes. In case it does bump into itself, that handles that. Okay, so if we just did that, it would be just like it just turns to cloth, just like the blanket does. But that's not what we want because this is a pillow. So to get a pillow, you have to add pressure. So you just turn pressure on, and then you raise the amount of pressure to some arbitrary value, and then try it and see what happens. And our pillow fills up and then bounces around, and it's not really strong. So there's a couple ways to affect that. You can play with a bunch of different parameters and get it to look good, or you can just do the weight. So, or you can also try different default parameters. So you can adjust things like stiffness, but it's the weight factor, depending on which material you have, it weighs a certain amount, and so you can adjust those parameters, or in this case you just increase the pressure and then try it, so it puffs up a lot faster. And I like that pressure. That looks pretty good. Just let it stabilize a little bit. So as it builds this animation frame by frame by frame, it's building it, right? And then it gets to the end and then it just plays. So you can see it. Okay. So then same thing, you just want to find a frame that looks the best. Like down here, you get some, I don't like the way this looks. So. Don't really have a choice. Let's look at it from another angle. Let me try, this is 27.4. Let me bump that up a little more. So, okay, one thing I notice is happening here. The pillow inflates and it lifts itself up. So if you want to avoid that, you can raise your pillow a little bit so that when now it goes, yeah, it sits a little bit better. I think it looks better with this much pressure. Yeah, this is better looking to me. That was pretty close right in there. Looked good. Okay, so where was that? That looks good right there too. Right there. I like that. Yep, okay. I'm happy with that. So then you just apply your cloth and then set it smooth, and you got a pillow. And if I don't want it to be that far down, I can move it, or I can just leave it there. Let's move it up a little bit. GY. Okay. There you go. The bed is done. So now we want to select everything and export it. Actually, what I want to check my UV maps too, but let's go ahead and do this. File, export, Collada. We'll call this one high poly. I'm thinking. Okay, let's check the UV maps on that pillow. Yep, see, it's still there. That's why I did the UV mapping earlier, because it still stays and it's still good. So that UV map on that pillow is going to work perfectly fine. And then let's see what I did here. Same. That's perfect. Okay, great. And then those look good. So I think we're good. All right, so I'm going to save this as final. Save it as. All right. So now to import that into Second Life, let's do that before I play around with it. I was going to play around with it in Substance Painter first, but let's do it. I don't need this anymore. We are going to do build, upload, mesh model. And we are going to take the highest one as the high poly model. And then for the medium, low, and lowest, we will select them from file. This would be medium. We're going to do from file, low. And then if this doesn't work, I have to go back and redo the low and the lowest and get rid of that blanket. And then this one's going to be from file, lowest. Calculate weights. 6.5. That's actually pretty good. Upload. And then we're going to look at what it does. Okay, there it is. There it is. Now let's watch what happens as we cam away. See how badly it breaks down. And whether this blanket sticks up in the air. Just became a cube. Became a cube? That became a cube. I don't see the blanket sticking up. It does, but you don't see it. You can't tell. I think it actually looks all right. Now, I could have done 2 or 3 different versions of these pillows, right? And have one that wasn't quite a box like that. But I think it's all right. Now, this is the original one that I did yesterday. Okay. And you can see that's what it looks like. So I don't know what's going to happen with these on this one. It may do the same thing. This is untextured. So let's go ahead and let's do some textures on it so we can see. So to do that, we're going to go into Substance Painter. We'll do new. Select. I think what I do is I'm not going to. You can do multiple levels of detail in here too, but I think I'm not going to. Where's it at? Documents. I think I'll do the high poly one. I don't know. Let me see what happens once I get it up. 2048 OpenGL. Okay, there it is. And we're going to set our light to be panorama two-sided. And then mode, bake mesh mode. This is the, use low poly mesh. So this thinks this is the low poly. Okay, so let's change this to the low poly and see what happens. I've never done this before, so we're learning to do this as we go. So we'll do the lowest poly. Yeah, I don't know that this is a good idea. Okay, there's the low poly bed. And then if I say use low poly mesh, I can't find mesh. The high poly mesh. Oh, wow. Okay, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing. So I would be afraid to. I'm afraid to do my job in this mode because I don't know what all these things represent. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But anyway, what happens if I go here? Oh, you only see the low poly one. That's interesting. So I'm gonna go back over here. I'm gonna bake everything. When I do my bake, I always set ambient occlusion, curvature, and thickness, secondary raise to 256. And bake. Let's see what it does. I'm very curious because I've never used this feature. Baking process, high poly parameters. Yeah. No, I don't like that. So let's go back. Edit, project configuration, select. Just select the high poly. Yeah, I've never done that before. I don't know what I'm doing, so we're not going to go there. And then bake mesh maps. We will get rid of those maps that I put in there and just say use the high poly mesh. And bake again. I just have more confidence doing this. I don't know what I was doing, so. I hope it works out. Getting some artifacting going on, especially on the pillow. It looks like it's clearing up. Yep. It's gone. Mostly. There's artifacting in here. I don't like it. There's artifacting here and here. These normals don't look right. That's usually something wrong with the model. So let's go back and look at our UV maps for the headboard. Ah, see, there it is, screwed up. How did that happen? Yep. UV, smart UV project. And all I did was rotate it. So, yep. Where else was there artifacting? The pillow looks good. The blankets look good. Everything else looks good. It was just the headboard. Oh, maybe the post too. Maybe. So let's look at the posts too. And those are clean. There's nothing wrong with those. Okay, so that's fine. All right, so what we're going to do is we will re-export this file, export Collada, high poly, and save. Then I will have to re-import this into Second Life too because it's changed. So, okay, but let's go in here. We'll do project configuration. High poly. Okay. And then we'll bake again. Should clean it up. Yeah, the grid looks right. The checkerboard pattern. Yep, it already cleared it up. All right, there it is. We are done with the baking, so we can return to painting. All right, so let's get some. I'm just gonna not spend a lot of time on this wood, and we'll get a nice looking wood. Apply it to everything. That's wood. All right, that is done, and now let's get some fabric, some cloth. What do I have? I want something. This is smart material. Just to see what it looks like. Dig it. I like that. That's cool. And then for the sheets, let's go cotton. What do I have? Oops. Crashed. He crashed on me. Ah! Substance Painter died. Which means I didn't save, so I got to redo everything we did. I don't know. Cancel. The joy of technology. New. Select. And this gives us a cleaner starting point. So, and OGO. Boom. Just got to do it again. All right, so let's go set our panorama lighting. Go to mode, bake mesh maps. 2048. Use low poly. Ambient occlusion. Curvature. Thickness. Bake. Save takes forever. That's why I didn't save. But I will this time. As soon as it's finished baking, I'm going to save it. And I'll pause the video. I don't know why it crashed. That was weird. Almost done. And we're getting there. Okay, that's done. So return to painting mode. And now I will save it. File, save as. Test twin bed. All right, so while that's saving, I'll pause the video. I'll come back as soon as it's done, and we'll continue on with texturing. All right, so the save just finished. Let's go ahead and see if we can texture this thing without it crashing on us again. So let's go back. I did wood, and I don't remember exactly which one it was. I know it was a smart material. So it doesn't have to be the exact same one. Let's try. I think it's one of these two, I think. Let's try this one. Okay, so there we have the wood. Looking good. And then let's go cloth. And I think I put this one on there. Okay. And then let's go ahead and put something on the pillow. I think I was doing cotton. And if it crashes again, then we've got a problem. Regular material. Let's put it on the box springs. I'll try to apply it to the mattress and the pillow too. So you can come here and click on the layer with has the material, the smart material. Not this is just regular material. Right click that and go to instantiate across sets, and then select the parts you want it to go on. I don't want it on the blanket. I don't want it on the headboard. I want it on the mattress. I want it on the pillow. I don't want it on those. And then save it. Okay. So now it's applied to all three, but the grain is too big, so I need to tile it for these two. But if you look at the pillow, it actually looks okay on the pillow. So that tells me I can't instantiate it to all three because the scale is different. So let's go to the pillow and we'll just remove that instance. And we'll put it on directly. And I think that looks fine. Okay. So then let's go back to the box spring. Or was it the mattress? Which one did I do? Was the box springs. Okay, so I did the box springs, but that looks too grainy. So let's try 4. Okay. I don't like I'm gonna take the height map off. There, that's better. And probably need to do that for the pillow too. Okay. Now, am I happy with that color, or do I want my sheets to be a little gray to go with this? Let's make them gray. So go back to box springs, and here's the fabric color. And I can click on that and pick a different color. So if I want to lighten it up or make it more gray, maybe come down like somewhere around here. That's a good gray. I like that. Now, I want to put that same gray on this because they're not in, this is not I didn't instantiate it to the pillow. I have to make the changes to the pillow. I didn't have to make it to both of these because I instantiated it from one to the other. So any change I make to the box springs automatically gets applied to the same setting on the mattress. If I had been able to instantiate that to the pillow, then I could just make one change and it would affect all three, but I couldn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy that color. So I'm going to go in here and copy this. It's 9C, 9C, 9C. Then we'll go to the pillow and we will paste it in here. And there we go. So now we've got on there. And there we have it. So I'm not going to do the blend fong and the PBR for this. I just want to go ahead and get the PBR. So we'll export. Oh, I need the blend fong to get the shadow. So let's do that. Go blend fong, which I have set up in a thing called an export output template called Second Life, which I have a video on how to set that up. And we'll just do. I'll go ahead and do them. I don't want the AO, so I'm going to turn the AO on. Except for the shadow. And on the shadow, I don't want the other ones. I only want the AO. Okay. Let me clear this folder where I store everything. Okay, it's empty. Export. All right, so that got me the blend fong materials. So now if I come back here, I can do build, upload. Actually, before I do that, let me go fix the shadow. So I'm going to open that up. In my export folder, it's called shadow.ao. Open it. Okay, there it is. I'm going to add 3 layers. Bing, bing, bing. Put this at the top. Fill this with, well, make sure it's my image is RGB. It's grayscale, so I have to switch to RGB first. And I don't want to merge. Okay. Now I can fill this layer with white. This one will fill with black, and these are just for testing purposes. Well, no, it's not. It also helps you with blending. Black, and then leave the bottom layer transparent. Then go back to this, and we're going to erase around the edges so that we're going to fade from our darkness into pure white so that we don't have any edges, sharp edges showing around the outside of the shadow, because those would be very pronounced and you would see it and people would go, ew, that doesn't look real. So in order to blend the edges, we put a white layer behind it, and then you delete the shadows at the edges. So you have to just make sure that there's some white space all the way around it. Okay. For this next step, Control L to adjust our levels with that layer selected, and then we're going to click on this and pull it over until the edge is gone. It's almost gone, but I still see a sharp line at the top and bottom, so keep going. And now I don't see any edges anywhere. Okay. And now go to the Channels tab, click on Load Channel as Selection, go back to your layers, add a new layer on top, invert our selection, and fill with black. Now, hide the original. That's what it looks like if the shadow is showing against a white background. So if you put the furniture on something white, it's going to look like this. If you put the furniture on a dark surface, it's going to be black. You're not going to see the shadow because shadow on black is black. And then this is the transparent one, and this is what we want. So we're going to export it, and I just overwrite the file shadow.ao. And there we have it. Now we'll go back in here, and I will upload all of those materials. Build, upload, bulk, export, select everything, oops, and import it. Now it's importing them. It's going to have, I'll have all of the blend fung, that's the diffuse, the normal, and the specular for each of the parts of the object. That's what's getting loaded, and the floor shadow by itself. So let's come back when this finished loading. Okay, it's finished, so let's go ahead and we'll put the shadow on first. So drag it on there. Then we'll edit it, and we'll select face. And we'll just go down the list. So the first one is side rails. So let's click on the side rails. Go to texture, blend fung. If yours doesn't look this way, there's a setting in Firestorm to have it show the panels this way instead of a drop down. And I can't remember exactly where. Yeah, I do. It's on settings, Firestorm, build to. It's the very bottom checkbox. All right, I should probably turn the gray off too, but we'll leave it for now. Shadow, I did that one. Next with side rails, diffuse, normal, specular, posts, diffuse, normal, specular. Then we'll go to the pillow, diffuse, normal, specular, mattress, diffuse, normal, specular, box springs, nope, headboard and footboard is next. Headboard, what happened? That was weird. Normal, specular. Now the box springs, diffuse, normal, specular. Oh, that doesn't look right. The headboard doesn't look right at all. Oh yeah, because I remember I said I needed to re-import my model. That's why. So this model doesn't work. This is the model before I fixed my UVs. So I've got to redo that. Build, upload, mesh model, and now I have to remember. I think you do the highest one first, right? I think that's the high poly. And the medium, low, and lowest. Calculate 6.5, and there it is. Now we can texture it again. So go back to my textures, put the shadow on, and side rails, diffuse, normal, specular, posts, diffuse, normal, specular, pillow, diffuse, normal, specular, mattress, diffuse, normal, specular, headboard. This is the one that didn't look right. Diffuse, normal, specular, box springs, diffuse. I'm not looking yet to see if it's right. It looks, from the corner of my eye, it looks right. And then blanket. Diffuse, normal, specular. Okay. So that's all of them. And then if we look, it actually looks correct. And this is Blin Fong. Okay. So let's go back. And we're going to do, this time we're going to choose GTF PBR metallic roughness as the output template and hit export. Then we go back and do, this has also got a gray tint applied to it. So once I put the PBR on, maybe I'll get rid of it. I don't know. I kind of like it though. Build, upload material, and export. There it is. It's called twin bed because I saved my file. And then it's going to ask me which one of the sub materials do I want to import, but I can say give me all of them. And then it will gradually load them in. And so I'll turn this off and come back as soon as it is finished. It takes a little bit longer to do these. Okay, it just finished loading them. So now you just go to your materials folder, and the materials are here. And they're named test twin bed, side rails, test twin bed shadow. I'm not going to use the shadow one. I'm going to delete that because I'm using the transparent shadow. All right, so I have one for each part, so we'll just drag them on. This part's easy. You just go drag and drop. Posts, drag and drop. Pillow, drag and drop. Mattress. Footboard. Box springs. Blanket. And there you go. This is it in Blin Fong, PBR. All right, that's what it looks like. Now let's cam out and see how it deforms. This is the part that I was wondering about. Is the blanket going to pop straight out and look like it's floating in midair? So far it looks good. That just changed. And that changed, but I can't really see it. It is sticking up in the air, but you can't really tell. Now, the question is, which of these two looks better? Even though they're not the same design, right? I was kind of wanting to see how they follow when they change. The pillow on this changed, and that is very noticeable. That one didn't change. I mean, it's very noticeable, but is anybody going to really notice? Is anybody going to really care? Because you're so far away. That deformed, and I don't like it, but this hasn't. Finally, it does. But it's not, I don't think it's anywhere where you're going to care. Actually, I think I like this. It looks pretty good, right? And LI wise, this one is 6 LI, and this one is 6 LI. They have the same LI. Now, the other question would be, what happens if I do this and I don't import the other LODs? So we made those 3 other LEDs, but what happens if I don't use them? So I'll try that. Build, upload, mesh model, document. Hi, Polly. Hi, Polly. How are you? And then we're going to leave it like that. Okay. So this is just I'm not going to load these in manually. Let's see how big it is just as it is now. It would be 35 Li. Okay, so if I drop this down, say 1,000, 500, these are the triangle limits. And you can set them for, instead of actually using the real model, you can set the triangle limits. And then recalculate. that got it down to 6 and no, that's the download. Land impact is 18, so this would be 18 Li. So that's not enough. Let's try 500, 100, 20. Well, if we did it the first time, if you remember what those numbers were, it was a little bit less than this. It's okay. That gets it down to 7.5 Li. So what if I make this 10? Calculate. Still 7.5. So those would have to come down. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and upload it and see how it looks. And let's see what happens. See, it doesn't break down either. What about the pillow? All right, well, I don't have textures on here, so let's go ahead and stick them. I'm not going to put the blend font on, it takes too long, but let's go ahead and put the floor shadow and the PBR materials. At least that way it'll look the same. Side rails, posts, pillow, mattress, head and foot, box springs, and blanket. So, I mean, it looks good because I can see PBR, but for people who can't see PBR, it would be white right now. So you definitely want to make sure if you do that, you want to use both. But I'm curious to see which of these two, let's get them as close together as we can get. That's the two of them side by side. Oh, it's not exactly. Okay, now they're side by side. And you may ask yourself, why did it look like that? Well, that's what happens in the editor. If you have texture set to blend font, when you edit it, you kind of see what's here. So make sure that's set to PBR. That way when you edit it, you still see the PBR when it's editing. All right, that's the two of them side by side. Go right down the middle. Here we are up close. Moving away, everything still looks good on both of them. I just noticed some flickering happen. Yep, there we go. That changed into a box, and this didn't. Going back more, going back more, going back more, going back more. This changed, this didn't. So what does that tell me? This tells me for me to go to all the trouble to make 4 different LODs and then go to all the trouble of making that and loading it in and everything, the difference is 6 Li for this one and 8 Li for that one. And I probably could have tweaked the numbers on this a little bit more to get it down. Like instead of 500, 110, I could have done maybe 400, 110. And I probably would have been able to get it down even lower. Or what I could try to do is maybe if I did that, let's try loading in the low poly and just see how many prims it is. Mesh model. Load the lowest poly one, and I'm going to write these numbers down. 51.17.5. That's really small. 51.17.5. That's why it can get down to 6 because it's using this really low poly one. So that's the nut values of the lowest poly. All right, but if I go back and let's try to let's upload the high poly again. But this time we're going to set these numbers down and I'm going to use those numbers and see what happens. 51, 17. I don't think it'll be the same. I don't think it'll be as good. It'll probably be really low poly, but it's not going to look as good. That's 5. That gets it down to 5. I just wanted to know, but let's see how bad it looks. Copy location, paste. This one is there. Okay, so I want to see how this deforms too. Okay, definitely the pillow deformed, but the blanket looks fine until there. Yeah. So the difference is 5 Li, and 8 Li. So again, I think we could try maybe one more time of bringing it in and get it closer to 6. But that's a lot easier than actually going in and actually having to spend the time to make 4 different models, right? And the benefit, in this case, the benefit was not that significant. I mean, I would go with this one over this one. You're paying a little bit more Li. Like this is 8 versus 6, so you're paying 2 more Li, but it's not gonna the pillow's not gonna look like a box from this distance. So I'd go with this one. So that answers the question. So I'm glad I did this video. So that shows you how to do how to do things when you're dealing with multiple LODs in your model. That's how you do it. And then you can see the benefits can be negligible at the end of the day. Now, there might be one other benefit. Let me bring that one back from the garbage. There might be one other benefit. Curious what happens if you have your LOD setting lower. Can I just drag that out? Yeah. There it is. One of the things is that maybe this is more obvious when you set your LOD to 3, which is the default setting. Okay, there's the 2 different versions of the bed. As I go away, that happened much faster. This one looks better. In any case, in both cases, even with my LOD setting wrong, which was the test, the bed where I didn't generate individual LEDs looks fine. Actually, I think it looks better. Now the question is, does this look better than the one I made yesterday? Kind of. Maybe I'll do 2 of them. 2 versions. Anyway, who knows? All right, so that's the end of the video. We did it. We got the bed. We made the bed. It's currently 8 Li in Second Life. Looks great and doesn't deform. And I didn't have to use LODs, but you know how. All right. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. And please subscribe to my channel for more of my great content, and hit the notification bell if you want to know when I put out a video, because I don't put them out on a regular basis, so you definitely want to know. So that's this, and we will see you guys next time around.